going to take over next. However, the Veterans Poetry Project will be moving forward in some capacity. So I want to start by recognizing special guests this evening. So John and Evelyn Mortier, welcome.
Thanks.
I'm going to hit them up later with a little bit more planning about the VPP, so welcome. And also Jeff Strange. Jeff, can you, oh, there you go. Come on up and explain a little bit about who you are and what you do, because I think that's important.
Okay.
And I wanted to recognize that for everybody. So, Jeff?
Well, thank you, Mattie. I don't have anything prepared. I wasn't ready, but thank you anyway. I'm a professional public speaker. My name is Jeff Strange. I host a open mic series in Richmond called Strangely Spoken. You can follow us at strangelySpoken.rba. It's once a month. It's at a place called Blue Beat. It's not too far from here, but all are welcome. We also branch out into storytelling and features. But come on out. Our next one is July 17th, Friday. StrangelySpoken.rba. But love the art and the craft. So thank you, Mattie, for
Yes, that's great. So, of course, there are many special guests in attendance this evening, and those are all the folks who have been published in this anthology. So I want to explain a little bit about the history of everything and how we got to this place, and hopefully where we're going to go next. We're not sure. I'm working on a couple of different options where the Veterans Poetry Project is going to go next. So, how did this all begin? I have to tell a quick story. It's got to be very, very quick. Who's going to give me 5 minutes? Anybody want to time me? Thank you. Vivian, she told me she's going to time me. Okay, so when I was appointed as the Poet Laureate of the state of Virginia, I spoke with the staff, the governor's office, and they said, well, what we would like for you to do is serve the Poetry Society of Virginia. So I thought, well, that's good because I don't know what else to do yet, right? So I do write poetry, but I also was kind of interested in figuring out what to do on a community basis, right? So what am I going to do? And I like to do things. So I'm not just a planner, I like to do things. So the first thing I did was respond to the first invitation I received, which was from Kathleen Decker, who's the president of the Poetry Society of Virginia. And she invited me to go to Williamsburg to a luncheon, their holiday luncheon, so for that region of the Poetry Society of Virginia. So I went to that, and I talked to a lot of people, and I really enjoyed that. I was able to give a reading. I learned, don't read so many of Appalachian down poems at once. That's what I learned there at a holiday reading. So what I actually learned, which was very important, was that veterans, Wayne David Hubbard, how many people, does anyone know who Wayne David Hubbard is? So, yes, Wayne David Hubbard, who's a very humble person, came up and just walked up toward the end, just about as I was leaving, and said, I said, well, I'm here listening to her, and he said, I did a lot of volunteer work for the National Archives, and what I noticed was a dearth of veterans poetry, so not much veterans poetry. So there's focus on memoir, and poems can be memoir poems, but not a lot of focus on veterans poetry. And then I thought, okay, so that's it. My listening tour ended. And then Kathleen was gracious to say, Mattie, you know what you ought to do? You ought to apply to the Academy of American Poets for a fellowship. And I thought, well, that's not going to be too easy, because I think it was within a month that I would have to do that. So I said, no, Kathleen, I don't think I'm going to be doing that. And then a week later, I thought, no, I am going to be doing that. So I called Wayne David and Kathleen, and then another person who helped quite a bit. His name is Bob Morris, and he runs the Cadet Foundation at BMI. Did I say Wayne David already? Wayne David Hubbard, and Bill Bush. So Bill Bush was on our team. And then one of the principal people who's trying to help teach me how to facilitate differently, not like a poet necessarily. So I'm supposed to listen more in my poetry workshops and not teach as much. Okay, fine. So James Madison for years. So he's retired. So these people were on the team. Do I have everybody? I hope so. The team. There's the team, the first team, and here's the second tier team, and these are the coordinators. So we don't have coordinators without the funding, so I set that off. And I had the minimal qualifications. It's always good sometimes to just show up, and that's what my dad taught me. So I showed up, and they accepted. They accepted the proposal for a veterans poetry project. So that's where we are. And then after we had that funding, the funding kicked in on August the 1st, 2025, so we haven't really been fully in this a year. So then we had some facilitators. Kathleen, again, was helping with that, Bill Close, Wayne David Hubbard, Mark Freiberg, he worked principally in Roanoke, Christina Linson, who is a buddy of his. Christina, Mark, and Wayne David are all members of, and of course Kathleen, members of the Poetry Society of Virginia. So that's how they kind of got that. I have 2 more minutes. I'm getting there. And so then I mentioned Phil already, so he facilitated Alani Spencer, who is the poet. Well, she's of course had to give over her crown. She's the Cinderella story. She's a poet laureate of Roanoke. Last year, I believe it is, we have a good one now. So these people have been facilitating workshops. So my goal was to have 10 workshops per region, 3 workshops in each of 10 regions of the state. So and I wrote the grant so that if I needed to, I could fill in those other spaces in case we couldn't get everyone in all the regions. So now I'm in the online phase of that. So that's where we are. We have over 30 generative workshops. Why am I reading from my PowerPoint?
I can narrate if you'd like. Because I'm the one who has done it.
So
over 30 generative workshops, both in person and virtual, which was great. Hybrid format was nice. Because especially, I don't know how many of you lived in this area or whatnot during like that winter, the lovely ice sheet. A lot of stuff got moved to virtual for those months. Dozens of participants, and the ultimate goal, which was to create generative work to contribute to this lovely meeting, was a success.
So far, so good. And to have all this done by the end of the month. So we almost made it. This is Megan, by the way, Megan Jenkins. Early on, she invited me to do a workshop, and so she's been a volunteer helping me ever since, just so you know. And these are some slides, just give you some examples of workshops. One of the most interesting workshops, there are many, but was working with a gentleman. He had never really thought about writing before, and he had like 18 ideas for poems. He arrived to listen to the Vietnam War era, arrived on site at the age of 21, was taught how to use the gun, and then the first piece he was replacing left the next day. So this kind of thing, some very interesting stories. Thank you. All right. And we had, I've been around the state a little bit as well. 2 minutes up yet? Probably. And I have a lot of memories with the Virginia Community College system, with the Veterans Band celebration in December, where pardon me. Oh, I'm sorry. November in 2025. And we have a contest, and we have some of the contest winners present with us. We have Stephen London, who was a winner of the contest itself. Second place, Mike Lynch. Third place, Richard Mattie. Then honorable mentions were Zach Allen, Ann Barley, Eric Forsberg, Robert Haynes, Juan Perez, Derek Prager. And then we had judges' choices as well. Corey Burns, Sabrina Davis, Mickey Johnson, Jack Callion, and Nicholas Lopez, and Harry Meyer. So we had quite a bunch there. So we had a lot of activities. So thank you. All right. Today is the day. So I do want to talk about the anthology a little bit. In your hands, you have a review copy of the anthology, if you are a veteran. And for everyone else present here, if you want one, you can also get a review copy. Why do I say review copy? Because probably just about as soon as we really had this printed out, I saw some things we want to change. So so being a dying perfectionist, I thought, yeah, we're going to have that come out, and I have a cell sheet for that. Sure, thank you. So these are for as long as they last for the veterans and their families. So go ahead and take those. So nothing too critical is wrong, but there are a couple of things that I thought, no, we're going to make sure this is right. So everyone who's a veteran is going to receive one in the mail. Once I get the back cover updated, that's basically the bottom line. A couple of other things. So thank you guys for your patience for that. So we have the anthology. The anthology was a goal. And what's good about that goal? The goal was to have everyone be able to have their name in front and see their poems emerge there. So I believe everyone is a writer, and you can choose your medium, right? Choose your medium. Just like in painting and art, I'm sure Jordan knows, right? Choose your medium, and some can, of course, go across a number of media, but that's just a really wonderful thing. And so I wanted veterans to have an opportunity to have this anthology, and hopefully we're going to keep it up. We'll see. So today's the day, the anthology released today, meaning it's finished. So it's kind of finished, as it turns out. So you guys are welcome. We were going to have sort of a reception, and everybody was so beautiful to sit down and get started. So does anyone have any questions about this, about the anthology? What about themes? What are fixed themes that percolated? It's interesting to think about when we get people published, when you think about the themes, you know. So a couple of themes that percolate through this anthology, I believe, and you may read it differently, like the first day, so striking experiences about just getting there. Another interesting theme is the transition back into your family, back to a location, you know, after serving. And then another thing that I thought really touched my heart a lot is the theme, how do I want to say it, like companionship. Like how much companionship people in the military develop with each other. Like, I don't believe necessarily that people in the general audience can understand companionship like that. And I mean thumbs up and thumbs down companionship, right? And then to the thing that I noticed that I really don't necessarily understand in my life, I am married to a veteran, by the way, my husband Doug. And one of my sons is a Green Beret, so I do kind of understand a bit of that. But I don't think I can really understand that companionship. And that shows in the compassion and concern that you develop. And also living in close quarters, of course, sometimes don't develop, right? That's just very interesting. So the public needs to understand, a general audience needs to understand lots of different people and what they experience. And I think this is a great place for you guys. There are others. There are other writers throughout the country. Of course, I decided this and only discovered there are many, 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 right? And Vivian, you were mentioning that, right? The Veterans Administration provides opportunities. We have at the state level opportunities for veterans to write and to the artists, like visual artists. And there's a place here, like Jordan. So Jordan is here. She's offered this space. This is her gift to the Veterans Poetry Project. So I want to thank her. She's a special guest. And she's been on the ground there for a little while, trying to make sure we could speak. But anyway, so yeah. All right. So any other things? Any other things you want to think about? All right. So am I listening? Yes. Yes, question. Yes, Vivian. Hello.
Oh, what do you envision as the next steps beyond publication? Will you try to bring this national, or
So there's a sum of money that you need to develop, there's some money you need to create a nonprofit. So I'm working on that. But I've also been offered a place for the Veterans Poetry Project at the state level, but that isn't ironed out yet. So I don't want to say anything else about that. But right now, to keep the veterans poetry, to answer your question differently, alive indefinitely, I have moved it to online workshops, and I'm performing the online workshops for the upcoming months. So Jeff is in that already, and so this is going pretty well. Yeah. All right.
I have another question. Was there anything that surprised you as you worked with veterans beyond the companionship you mentioned as you launched this project?
Yes. How many people just stepped forward? They were really just helpful in stepping forward and sort of. I don't think it's hard to think about. Like, I don't really know a lot about the veteran population, except for the more I thought about it, the more I realized yes, I do, because I had obviously uncles in the service. But just the surprising number of people who just really gave unconditionally. So if I made a mistake with something or whatever, they were just very generous to accept that and just still support it. That was really wonderful. Wayne David Hubbard, for example, just has been very gracious that way. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. I can't think of anything else. I thought, okay. Jean Johansson, yeah. So the Anthology, yes, thank you. I'm not following the PowerPoint she's telling me. Okay, so Jean Johansson has published this anthology, so if you look on the back, you will see that's my publications. So she's been really helpful in getting this all together and patient when I discover something I overlooked before, so she's been very good about that. And then Megan, I talked about her before, she's been really a volunteer with many hats. And then finally, Kathleen Decker. The Poetry Society of Virginia provides some support as well in the grant. So if I can explain, if you ever do this as a poet, that the grant can, if for example, Kathleen Poetry Society of Virginia gives certain support, then the Academy of American Poets will give matching grant. So that's been really nice. So we want to remember that as well. That's what we for the Poetry Society. Am I finished with PowerPoint?
Outside of the meetings.
All right, great. Okay, so I was trying to get a list.
I don't know. Yes.
So I'm involved in the Wednesday meetings online, and I was wondering if there's going to be more of those facilitated across, but maybe more theme-based or craft-based on, bringing veterans in and having them start working on things. And what are your plans for continuing that as far as the workshop online goes?
Okay, the workshop online goes, we're going to follow the same format that we've done so far, which is we have one example of a poem, and then a little bit of craft there, the type of poem you're writing, and then a prompt. Is that what you're asking, the framework?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the format out so that other veterans understand what's happening on those nights, and then maybe we can kind of boost it, or maybe add a second night eventually, because there's just too many in the Zoom room.
Right.
So I was just looking for general information on, on what goes on.
What I did was I kind of split, so we're always going to have a generative workshop. To answer your question differently, there's always going to be, so when you dial in, by the end of that session, which is 1 hour and a half, you will walk away with a rough draft of a poem. So that's that much I'm going to keep in focus for everybody. So, and then there will always be a place for the veteran to come for the following time period, so it happens weekly, and then you share what you did to edit and revise that for everybody to get their comments. And then we will have that example, right, of a poem. That's what I've always tried to work, one example in, and then have the prompt for the exercise that night. So I want to keep everybody focused on generative, so a generative workshop versus a teaching workshop. Yeah. But this week, I did put out a prompt for the attendees who are in the weekly workshop to give me an idea if they think they're happy with that framework.
I'll add to that and say if you're looking for something more in person or hoping to scale it, during the Poet Laureates, like the fellowship, this civic project's first phase, we did have a couple in-person generative workshops at public libraries, and we coordinated with them. And I think for the future, the hope is, depending on how fundings and things go, or if there are volunteers or people willing to help facilitate, I think more discussion towards what I think you're asking will probably be doable. I think just because we're kind of ending this first phase and then thinking beyond is we're in this transition between what we have now done and what we would like to see moving forward and getting that support and kind of ironing out some of those details that might have not been fully fleshed out in this first phase, because you're trying to create something from nothing. So now that we have created this something from the nothing, I think you see the need. Virginia is the highest population of veterans. And I think there's definitely a space for growth for that, and I think we've had a couple different library systems in very much support of that. As you know, I feel like all liberal art institutions and nonprofits can sometimes struggle with always needing money, always needing more people. So I think we're just trying to iron out the details right now and seeing, okay, how can we structure ourselves, get people to want to facilitate in their communities perhaps, to help kind of cultivate veterans poetry. And that could be looking into different local veteran groups. Like I have one that meets at my local library, and they're very interested in perhaps pursuing something like this. Even kind of not necessarily outside of the scope of poetry, because many of them, I know plenty of us that are like, poetry now. They're not like, they think poetry and they think back to school when it's really hard to understand. But when you think about, for veterans, especially since there's such a scope and wide variety of what it means to be a veteran, you can really play around with that within poetry and not have them, which is why, like you said, creating generative workshops, not having them be forced to learn this part of structure, the rhyming schemes, the syllable, all these other things. It's telling their story.
I'd rather be more responsive to your, for example, your interests or whatever. But meanwhile, don't forget, I am in a conversation with a couple of different people as far as to answer that question about her fee. You asked about the fee. For now, they're going to be free. Okay? And then when we move into the next phase, that is going to depend. Right? So if you could, the way I imagine the Academy's fellowship, at least for us, for this, was almost like a seed grant. So while it's supposed to support the poet as well, and believe me, I'm going to continue, I do have some book manuscripts, mind you, but I think about it as a seed grant, and then now we're going to what next. But to answer your question very specifically for you, the workshops that you and Shelley are attending, they're going to continue on, except for I think I'm going to take the month of July off because I have a summer intensive class. But they're going to continue with the general framework that you're seeing weekly now. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I don't want to step on any toes. My name is Michael Owens. I run a writing program for the veteran community, sort of centered at Longwood University. I have an online site. I'll work with individuals, with groups, especially if you're secret levels to poetry section. If you want to talk to me, I have a card, and I'll be around.
There's space for everybody.
And I've noticed that the more I get out and about, the more I learn that there are many, many opportunities. So, and you sound like one of them, sir. Thank So,
Yeah.
yes, I was going to mention something else about Longview, but that's okay, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think this would make an interesting podcast. You know, because I mean, you've got all your guests right here, pretty much.
Yes.
And the stories behind the poetry would be
Yeah,
very, very
that's a great
fascinating.
idea.
Yeah.
Wayne David did a podcast, Wayne David covered one of the veteran facilitators. He was also the previous treasurer of Poetry Society of Virginia. He had gone on a podcast earlier this year, actually, to talk about the project, and I really liked it, and I think you're in the right direction, where we want to get.
And Mark Firework also coordinated something with a local television station in Roanoke, which was very successful too. And I have been pursuing that. I do have a place located for a podcast in a podcast studio. And it kind of overlaps with something else I'm doing. I'm the vice president of the Armed Forces Communication and Electronics Association, Rockbridge, Shenandoah chapter. And we do, I know it's a big mouthful, we have podcasts too. That's a great idea. And I did look at podcasts, but it felt like something I couldn't quite do yet, but that's a great idea.
Because it seems you've got all the guests right here.
Yes, and you're right.
The stories behind that would take up a half-hour show.
That's a great idea, and I know that Wayne Davis, he's not here yet, right? I think he's delayed. But I think Wayne Davis Hubbard would be super happy to hear about that too, because it kind of ties into this concern for the archiving, just getting an archive. We tried I thought about the site as a place where we can get, just sort of a life, but we haven't really started to, well, obviously we've archived something, but like an ongoing archive like that, that's a great
The early thoughts that Wayne David, we had tried to establish a connection with the American Folklife Center that has the Veteran History Project. And they actually have an entire interview, like pamphlet book that you can get, where you can do an interview, podcast style interview with a veteran and send it to them for them to do archiving. So I would definitely look at Library of Congress on that, just for your guys' own curiosity. But yeah, that was something we explored early on. I think due to government shutdowns and things that were happening at that time, the contact was we just didn't get to follow up with that. So I think moving forward, that definitely would be something that is necessary.
Yeah, that's going to happen. That's going to happen, because you're right, we have a track rate, why not just let a couple, right? That's a good idea. And it would be so interesting, that's kind of a fusion too. Still suits the memoir need too, so that's great. All right, anybody else? Questions, concerns? Yes, sir. Go.
Right. So I'm sure seeing Clayton Castle on the screen there. And,
Oh, I didn't see that.
He wasn't there
Yeah.
necessarily, but I'm sure you're talking to them about
Yes, sir.
possibly working with the Mighty Pen project.
Yes, sir.
We've got a couple people in here from over there.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but yes, sir. We've been having a little conversation.
And Chuck as
Yes.
well. But
Yes.
yeah, and David Robbins, he's our teacher, and he's obviously a great writer and a great teacher, but
Yes.
a lot of times he doesn't know what to do when we bring him poetry. He enjoys it, but it's not his lane. We've had Bill Lewis come in a couple times and work with us.
Yes.
He's great. But I think there's so much, there could be a lot of synergy between what you guys are doing and what the Mighty Pen is doing, and they've been doing it for 10 years now, so they've got some lessons learned, and things that didn't work and things that do work. So
Yeah.
hopefully, that's my hope that you guys start working with them.
Yeah, I talked to them about that. Well, nothing settled yet. Wait, he was supposed to be here.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we're talking about that, like what is that going to look like? How are we going to do what he wants to do, which is an online format to reach other regions of the state. For example, Southwest Virginia. That's where I'm from, by the way. That's been a tough reach. But we now, because of the Veterans Poetry Project, we have somebody down there. So there is a way to get things built to the next level, to your point. And we've been talking about that with them. Thank you. Ready? And then we regards to reception. That's called a rush job. It's been a rush. Okay. All right, welcome again. So we're going to finish up the day now that we've had a little talk about everything. Again, thank you for being here. We're going to have the reading. So today, the veterans group present here, paired with the veterans, oh, you know what? I told a slight wrong. First of all, I wanted to ask the veterans online if they have any questions or want to make comments about the program. I forgot that. So, out of sight, out of mind practically, it's terrible. Okay guys, those of you guys who are online, do you have any questions or comments about the Veterans Poetry Project before we get started?
Yes, ma'am. Do you hear me?
Yes, is that Richard?
Yeah, it's Richard.
Hi,
I just
Richard.
wondered, the poetry project began last year during a different administration. Is the project receiving favorable consideration from the new government in Richmond? I'm
going to be honest with you. I don't know. I haven't really, there hasn't been communication one way or the other. The Poet Laureate, I operated this through the Poet Laureate appointment, so I can only imagine they're probably working to get the next Poet Laureate up and running. And I will say that there's been a slight change because the Poetry Society of Virginia, I believe, did ask the Poet Laureate upcoming, I don't know who that is. No idea. Oh, she knows who it is. She keeps secrets well. So she knows that this is what I'm imagining in my head. I'm imagining that more than likely they're working with that Poet Laureate because this time the Poetry Society of Virginia had, as part of the consideration for the laureate appointment, they did ask them to put together a civic project. So the overlap, there's only well, that's not true because we're looking at months, but I'm imagining they're getting ready to announce that this new person in the splash of their civic project, etc. But I made that up, that's wholly conjecture.
Hopefully you get more funding.
Now the funding is something interesting, so I don't think anyone knows this, but the Poet Laureate position of the state is an unfunded position.
Wow.
So what you see Poets Laureate do, sans what I did, which is take the extra step and apply for that fellowship with the Academy of American Poets. Sans that, whatever you see Poets Laureate do, if they, of course, they could be getting honoraria, but sans that, it's not a funded position or anything like that. It really is an accolade, sir. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? I guess we have one. Okay. No one else wants to speak? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Stephen, I saw Stephen smiling, he's not going to say anything. Anyone else?
No, nothing done yet.
Okay, all right. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys one day somehow. We're going to keep this thing going, I hope. All right, so we're going to move on then. And we're going to start with the reading. Now, before we start with the reading, let me ask everyone, do you have a reading guide if you're present here? Because the reading guide, we also have a book, but we didn't coordinate page numbers with reading guides because two different people worked on two different parts of the project that night. So you have a reading guide, and the reading guide kind of is the master guide for you guys. And then the poets online will be stepping in to read, given the order that the slideshow shows. Okay, does that make sense? So you kind of know when you're going to read because it's alphabetically arranged by last name. All right, so does everyone in the audience who's not a reader have a program? Yes. I should say not program, reading guide. I have extras so people need I know where they are. Anybody else need them? get these reading guides. Anyone else? Don't be shy. You all good? Okay, so we get started.
And I'll just make a note for presentation purposes, not all these poems are in the proper format. I can only
Yes.
work with
Well, we won't worry about
portrait
that.
versus landscape.
They're probably going to be after this cycle. All right, so, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to follow what I want to try to say, PowerPoint. And I'm going to go in order, and we're going to shift back and forth between people on site here and people who are online. And we won't have any introductions this time, because that took a long time. I learned last time. So what we're going to do is when you come up to read, go ahead and say a couple of things about who you are, where you're from, and I won't read an official introduction like that, okay? And then we have this to help guide us. So,
Jeffrey Beck.
Hi, Jeffrey Beck from Heron, Virginia. My service was year 2000 to 2021. I retired, and now I live out in the country. My poetry is about a situation in Iraq where I was walking from the Chow Hall and I witnessed the first democratic election, and I was amazed, and I had to stand there and just watch democracy in action. And 20 years later, I ended up writing about it. So this is Democratic ink. Democratic ink colored her thumb blue. Pride this day beamed from smiles in the Wild West. Our eyes met, and I saw humanity too. Freedom to choose, maybe freedom to rest. The collection of liberties, freedom of expression to protest, freedom of thought to think, freedom of press to write, autonomy, the right to self-governance. Take these for granted by my own privilege, only by virtue of where I was born. Tragedy is, though, without this knowledge, my freedoms ultimately may be torn. I said no words that day. I gave them space to practice. I watched with pride. I witnessed history. Regardless of the border closing down, despite the limited curfew hours, notwithstanding the traffic bans in town, our troops stand guard in high armored towers. Ink is proof they are no longer oppressed. Victory in Al-Anbar, the Wild Wild West.
David Reed Brown, the point.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm David Reed Brown. I'm a retired Navy chaplain. I served 21 years in the Navy. I'm currently a school teacher now in Hanover County at Grace Christian School. I teach government, art, and Bible. So full circle there with the subjects. Deployment is actually the second poem of three that talk about military life. And the first one is called Global, and the last poem is called Home, and they also appear in the anthology. Deployment is sort of unique because it's spoken from a military spouse's voice. And so it's not the veteran, but it's the military spouse speaking about deployment. Separation is painful at first. Then, over time, it is relieved by the merciful numbness of independent distance and its peculiar way to help me cope with you being gone.
Vivian Dubs, Boots Martin inside. a person. We're going to have The Rebuild by Sabrina Davis. I do not have a slide for that, apologies. Sabrina, are you online?
I am.
I'm so sorry I forgot you.
It's okay, it's okay. I'm active duty, I'm in the Job Corps Army. My poem is dedicated to my grandfather, who was a Vietnam war vet. I came with the letters that he had sent home to my grandmother during his time in Vietnam, and I wrote the poem as tribute to him. The Rebuild, dedicated to my grandfather, John Davis III. Rebuilding my life now that I am home. The jet cracks my sleep, explosions. I can still smell the smoke, taste burning flesh, but I'm expected to be normal. No one hears the screams but me. No one feels the weight of loss but me. I'm surrounded by people who still see me as whole. Yet in the mirror, I'm covered with the blood of my brothers, the spit of my enemy. In my reflection, I see the war in my eyes. I hear the screams in my ears. And yet still, I remind myself, I am there no more. My reality is here. I am what they call home.
And now Vivian Jones, please marching inside Apology Letters.
My name is Vivian Dells. I am from Quesenberry, Virginia, and I'm an Army veteran. Boots marching inside. I remember my last day in uniform. 4 good comrades and First Sergeant 75 Bravo boots on the ground. A little anxiety and my next mission unclear. 4th ID, continue preparing for combat, but make no mistake. And my heart rang out our motto, stay prepared and take only what you need to take. I still cherish the memories of camaraderie. The cadences are still in my stride. The quiet pride of service runs deep and feels like boots marching inside. Resilience, my silent rank, stitched into every visible and invisible scar. That unshaken Army resilience that still pushes me from afar. I question if my Army skills would hold their weight, or will I need to start anew? Would there be an agency to walk with me, to really help me follow through? Should I stay in Harper's Cove, or return to where I grew? Can I lead without formation lines, or drill in something new? No longer counted in the ranks, I've forced myself to keep standing straight and tall. My oath didn't expire. Serving this country remains my call. Leadership I lived it, perseverance paid in pain. Though my service changed in shape, the mission throughout my resolve still remains the same. I was built for moments like this. This new and passing storm will not consume. I left for good with more than pride. A citizen soldier determined to bloom. For freedom and for honor, we gave all we could give. But I asked my country softly, how now, departed, she'll help me aspire to live. Not just survive the silence, but constantly thrive in who I am. A veteran, a protector, a leader, a strong, resilient woman. Would you be ready for me, America? Or will my beliefs and reality collide? I'm falling into your arms with quiet pride of service, running deep, feeling like boots marching inside.
Rice Patties of NYC is Leo Party.
Thank you very much. I'm a drummer, gentleman Smith Walker, and I'm thrilled to be accepted into this group. My background is in theater, as an actor and director in the city, and I've been a writer all of my life. I started Vietnam in 1971, and I'm working on a collection of stories, sort of library version of the many stories that they tell. So this one is called Rice Paddies in New York City. 3 Asian ladies bent on twisted frames, huge long mountains, gathering bottles and cans in the streets of New York City. A scene that transports me back in time to the tangled maze of rivers and striking of the making of memory. Youth instantly restored. Myself in faded green fatigue, legs tingling, in body hugging sweeping tunics, with long sleeves worn gracefully over loose flowing trousers. I watched them work. They worked watching me, gathering rice and habits, untroubled by my gaze, my presence in their lair. Scarcity but the shade of smiles, no outward signs of animosity exists between us. The rice is yellow in the sunshine, begins to drop, guided by the skillful hands of the ladies harvesting, with their simple hand tools, sickles or handheld knives, collecting their crop with their expert cutting. A fire engine roaring by, blaze, the blare of siren and horn, bring me back to my unsolicited trip to the past. We are no longer who we were, myself now in civilian attire, the ladies now in ill-fitting Western garb, the non-law palm leaf conical hats, a signature symbol of the dress, the only lasting reminder, the catalyst of my visit to a time long past. The non-law shaped plastic focused eyes, their brown hands sift through piles of trash with this new cash crop, castaways from our disposable lifestyles. I watch them move through fields of park benches and trash cans, collective somber city parks. Eerily similar to my observation watching the harvest 2 years ago, moving through the rows of paddies with the same grit and perseverance. They leave no back untouched. Every bottle, every can, empty, tossed into the cart. This day's harvest a nickel at a time, edible, but the means that subsist just the same.
Current state.
Hello, I'm Shelley Gill, and I was in the Air Force Air National Guard most of my career, and I retired in 2022. I never expected to have a challenge with transition, but I did, and this is a point in my life called current state. I'm no longer in this state, by the way. Lightning bolts and intrusive judgments strike across the barren desert of my brain. Whole trains of words derail, spilling their contents back into my subconscious to be churned and stirred before they resurface, like blobs in a lava lamp. The fragile ribbon of contemplation remembers echoes from the me I knew so long ago, almost forgotten. My soul, barely a whisper that I strain to hear before it's lost to the wind and gone. Seemingly, but not gone. A quiet revolution starts inside as I transform. New ideas float through the space of my mind in a thread as thin as bird's breath, like the first hint of light blessing the horizon with its promise. An awakening of hope begins to glow in my chest, one moment at a time. An evolution from selfless to self, discovering it's okay to just be.
Richard Hamner, a root from the loop.
Thank you. You can hear me?
Yes.
That's good. I want to first of all thank Dr. Smith and staff for the Veterans Poetry Project. This is a very noble project that you've been on, and you've certainly helped this retired engineer with a burst of paper in a meaningful way. I'm Richard Hamner. I'm a Navy veteran of 22 years. I was a Mustanger, 4 years enlisted and 18 years as an officer. And I did duty with the Naval Security Group, and the civil engineer for the Navy and Sea Beast. I'd like to say that I'm a chip off my parents' block. My mom served with the Danish resistance in Nazi-occupied Denmark. My dad was a career Navy Master Chief with service in World War II Pacific. Every veteran remembers the first day, the first dump they took in the military. It's boot camp, it's recruit training. And as for me, it was 1969, I was 17 years old. Veterans don't forget this time, and it's worthy of a remembrance moment. So I wrote a route from a boot. From Virginia we came on the bus from O'Hare, recruits to Great Lakes, the Navy's in care. Kids out of high school, college on the Ford, Vietnam was raging, Woodstock's this Ford. The bus approached the gate in the dark. 2 centuries I saw, what would they bark? Not a murmur was heard, just groans of attention. A knot in my stomach announced apprehension. The gate opened wide, from lines we were led. Columns of 2 would be marched to our beds. When we learned to salute, came a question anew. Shut up, he was told, that would come soon. Rows of racks and open squad bay had stunk. Old barracks they were, and took a tough bump. 3:30 became quickly that hot August morn. The company commander, our ardor, was born. A boot is something you think that is worn, but in this place it's a name that's forlorn. For even the dumpster above you stands tall. You were senior to no one and junior to all. Medical tests showed a defect that lay latent. Chest x-rays that followed made me impatient. A week it took, my home team moved on. Bronx Company 566, my new gang, I'm fun. God merged Virginia with New York that fall. I learned that Americans, we are all. No matter our creed, our race, or religion, the Navy blue gold is our common mission. The weeks that followed, we counted each one, marching the classes, seamanship, and guns. I became a squad leader, and innate boots like me, reporting their measure was something indeed. Graduation came a joyful day in November. That same bus in the dark came back, I remember, with sea bag on shoulder, going back to O'Hare, flying home to mama and girlfriends that cared. 6 decades have passed, and now I look back. That time in the 60s that I thought was so black. A boot forms a root that grows up from life's cellar. Hardship and regiment forges futures that are stellar. My dad was right that the Navy does shine. I retired a commander, lots of memories behind. Put your best foot forward, I was told, as a boot. Follow that guidance and see what takes root.
By Robert Haynes.
My name is Robert, and I served in the Army as an infantryman. I deployed a few times to Iraq, and a lot of my poetry comes from those experiences. However, this one is dedicated to my fellow service members from the 7th Infantry Regiment in Korea, known as the Manchu Regiment. And this is dedicated to those who still serve there and those of us who serve. Manchu. So long is the mile of the Manchu dragon, to walk and walk to breaking day. Keep up the fire on the edge of the dying day. Bloody sandbag feet marching to imperial beasts set to slay. So long is the mile of the Manchu dragon, to shoulder the pain of lives unheard, but for the roar before they crash. Keep up the fire on the edge of the dying word. With weighted ruck and 2 souls on, exhausted limbs and muddy mountain clay. So long is the mile of the Manchu dragon. Upon battle lines with fist and drawn sword, a breathless, wounded dragon must say, keep up the fire on on the edge, dying word. Too torn to fear the vengeance, fight on, rebellious boxers in blood shall pay. So long as the mile of the man you drag, and keep up the fight on the edge, dying word.
Anita I. Holmes, for life and service to Hollis Athena, and Wayne Marshall.
In the Women's Army Corps, we wore the symbol of Pallas Athena on our lapels. And the shape of so many munitions is like the beginning of this poem, but also the shape of the yarn that's been spun when it's wound on the spindle is the same shape. A Fibonacci-shaped poem. She, yet a child, left family for idealism. She swore loyalty to the state. Her faith soon invested in patents, munitions, might. Proudly she served under the banner of fierce warrior goddess Pallas Athena. She grew in wisdom, yearned for grace as sorrow found her. Yet you thank her for her service. Why? You've no idea what she did or did not do. A grown woman returned home, heart more pragmatic. She serves under the tutelage of Pallas Athena, weavers and spinners' patron. Her duty now is to spindle fleece, the shuttle's thrown. She beats cadence on wheel alone. Braiding flax, the only vital act she commits. See, her soft shawls and cold infants, warm the elderly, atonement, mercy, grace too.
Wayne David Hubbard, keys.
Hi, my name is Wayne David Hubbard. I am the outgoing treasurer of the Poetry Society of Virginia. I served in the Marine Corps from 2000 to 2005. Although I'm the outgoing treasurer, I think until June 30th I can still speak for the society and say what a pleasure it's been to collaborate with Mattie, Quesenberry on this effort, as well as Megan Jenkins. Began a really quick brainstorming conversation when we first met in 2024, and very quickly a lot of great people rallied around to make this possible. And so I'm really grateful for everything that you've done, and I hope to continue this effort with you as we move forward. My poem is entitled Keys View. I grew up outside of New York City, and the Marine Corps sent me to the desert. It was a shock, and then they sent me to the desert some more in Iraq. But by the time I transitioned out of the Marine Corps, the desert became a part of my soul, I think. And so Keys View is in Joshua Tree National Park, overlooking the Coachella Valley. And this poem is about a before moment, before I deployed to Iraq, and an after moment 20 years later. Keys View. Where at 20, he prayed, overlooking Coachella, the Salton Sea, San Jacinto's eternity, where Virga split the desert's mouth, where starlight quenched what war set aflame. That he returned at 40 must mean it hurt him. Triumph of quiet and the deep.
Mickey Johnson, Delta Rain.
Hello, I'm Mickey Johnson, live over in Anita, Virginia, between Warren and Sherman. I went to high school on 17th birthday, joined the Army in 74, served for 3 years. I did not go to Vietnam. I went to Germany, but I write a lot about Vietnam. Monsoon and dawn, it was miserable as best, soaked to the bone, impossible to rest. Extra socks in a baggie, we tried to keep feet dry. The jungle rock rampant until the day we die. New lieutenants show up, they answer the call, green and untested, but they do it all. Sergeants drew cars to seal their fate. The city takes a lieutenant on their first stage. Replacements were needed, they weren't prepared. Bright and innocent, they thought their country cared. Welcome to the Delta, no one knows you're here. Back home to their parties, smoking joints and drinking beer. A footnote in history, there's a real shame. These are folks we grew up with, and the politicians are blamed. Skin diseases and rashes, part of the escape. Real world heroes don't need to wear cape. I got sent to the rear every once in a while, a break in the act, but you won't see us on. The orange-colored agent, often invisible for years, taking a toll still today, leaving thousands in tears. Immersed in the world, every step unknown, low softly inside Charlie's kill zone. Rice paddies laden with danger with the sounds. Mosquitoes and leeches, tripwires and mines. The lucky ones came home, plutonium and abuse. No solace to be found, many turned to the juice. They deserve better for their huge sacrifice. Gave everything they had for the land of rice. Better late than never, let's start today. Let them know their value, find the words to say. And I don't really know how far they're wrong. We honor them all with a huge welcome home.
Here, Michael Lennon, red and blue.
So this poem is dedicated to my dad, who was a Marine infantry officer from 1944 to 1963. He's buried in Arlington National Cemetery right now with 3 Purple Hearts on his tombstone. It's dedicated to my older brother's generation who served in Vietnam, and to my friend John, who stepped up. I'll mention him at the end. Well, they served their country, but the country didn't serve them back. Their brothers and sisters turned away, showed their back, suckers and losers. They were red and blue. Forgotten war and forgotten warriors, or baby killers and worse. Hide yourself any way you can. Alcohol, drugs, anger and pain. 22 a day is the price they pay. They were red and blue. But some stepped up to help a friend or a neighbor, welcome home and a helping hand, because they had served this land, and they were red, white, and blue.
Thank you very much, everybody. My name is Stephen London. I'm an Afghan veteran. I served just under 10 years active, a lot of time overseas. And currently I'm still overseas, continuing with writing and helping try to shape young minds. So this is my poem, I Remain, and I'll just get into it. I carry the weight of steel and sky, boots pressing into earth, as if to remind me I am not apart from it, but of it. In the mountain nights, stars pierced the black, and I felt their light thread into my chest. Perhaps the universe borrowed my eyes to see its vastness. So, when my body broke, and danger whispered like wind through torn canvas, it was not I who endured alone. It was the mountain holding my spine, the river tide repeating, rise again, rise again. Coming home, the silence was heavier. Once familiar rooms felt blocks under me, but even then, the trees leaned closer with their green patience, reminding me of me. A branch grows stronger where the storm once bent it. We speak of perseverance as if it is muscle or will, yet I have found it in stillness, in the simple act of breath, in knowing the universe has always been breathing me. If I endure, it is because I was never just one soldier. I was the field, the sky, the turning stars. Even in loss, I remain.
Michael Lund, correspondence and correspondence.
Thank you. Correspondence, in parentheses, under the title, 1968 dash. Loving you was easy going, knowing when to step or step back, what to ask to set days tap, bending paths to one wind's blow. Knowing me and then foreseeing what would follow or be found, ups and downs, turns arounds, brought the diamond into the round. Decades later, here we stand, dreams we had been unwilling to assume they're fulfilling, evident beyond the warland. Love we prayed to chart the way, not the mind or clay or day. Here's sort of part 2 in correspondence. It has, under the title, RVN, Republic of Vietnam, 1970 to 71. War words, sad words, too knowing, added onto every page, sent to those who have so wanted, storybook, news, homecoming. At the early springtime burial, public praise and private sorrow. For the friend who has fallen, named to go deep in granite wall. Uniforms of those who stand tend to every moment's honor. Bugle notes sound far beyond town and deep in states within. 50 years we say the name, Stephen Henry Warner.
Thank you. 1984, I joined the Marine Corps. I was 22, was playing with a band 4 years. I was coming off the road. A lot of nights probably indulging in more things than I should have and needed a change in life. And one day I just drifted into the Marine Corps recruiting station and had signed up, and I wanted to see the world, and they sent me to South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. But somebody recently asked me, Joe, you still wear your hair short? That's kind of high and gray. And they said, we used to always wear these Marine Corps shirts. And I like when young people come up and say, hey, what was it like in the Marine Corps? I can tell them, if you think about going, you need to go. You need to be close to God and find stuff. And the Marine Corps, I look back, everything I heard of Jesus Christ, but the Marine Corps played a big part in a wonderful life. And this is called War to the War. A wild, crazy life needs to be tamed. Sign the papers, seek to change. Sleepless arrival, hustled Harry, reclamation project, to this I am married. Mental and physical, the challenge is bold. I'm becoming something, this I am told. Here is the day we have arrived, families watching, marching with pride. New roads of travel, continue to learn. All life's lessons, there's rank to be earned. Compassion is found deeper than home. You learn how to lead, you continue to grow. All this instilled will serve you so well, you never forget it and live life to tell. Evil, glow, and anger, always displayed. It runs through the blood, it courses the veins. It beats in the heart, the core to the core. The life it touched goes on to touch more. 40 years later, you look back and see it all came together through God and the Marines. Thank you.
Tom McDade, fancy work.
I joined the Navy when I was 17. My first ship was the USS Monarch DD 944, and that's the setting for fancy work. I saw a bosun impressing a fresh out of boot camp addition to the crew with some tricky knot tying. One-handed he weaved bright red shot lines civilians might call twine around 3 fingers of the other paw. The Turk's head was fancy work, decor for quarterbacks and dolling up, captains' gigs and things, ceremonial. I mastered all the knots, to sew on 3 stripes, to rise from apprentice to full-fledged seaman, yet I grabbed the challenge, fingering and failing. On lookout watches forward and aft, and in my bunk as if praying a rosary. My first success struck, nearly unawares, while I ogled the Argentine Libertad, its wealth of sails unfurled on the way to a landmark tall ships event in NYC. I tried to pick out any armament it carried, and I might have imagined swashbuckling movie cannons ablaze if warships had not begun bombing Vietnam a month past. All I knew of war was one-sided and harmless, passing powder kegs and projectiles to nourish a 5-inch 54 during full sea battles. In that hefty magazine on Dud trial, Turk trial runs so many times, a victory scene thousands of nautical miles away, likely matching the distance Virginia Capes to Vietnam.
Jason Norton, pushing through.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity. I served in the U.S. Army for the Union around 1999-01. Spent some time overseas in Kosovo, the NATO Kosovo campaign, and this is pushing through. Going along with breakfast, movement of the covenant. Play games in the street by officers, exhale the poisonous fog for free. Playgrounds rumbling, tired, rusted, painless swings. Same hangout with thin, flickering streetlight reminded bleeds mock cavemen. Leaves falling without warning or sound, like nature's colorful cousins. Endless cuts replaced with feather. And now it's placing your damn attitude. What comes now without frequency? No matter who you are. Who do I recognize in these faded parking lines? Then we find a new face or place I can help. Distortion from wrinkles and unrest. How do you leave? There was never a way out. No indication of return or warning. Winds of vengeful peace submit their choice to the broadcast. Feel my hands and shallow glass closed. Your reports need to take a look. Thank you.
Stephen Cody, a military cemetery.
He's not present here. He's here. He's present.
Stephen Cody, are you online? Going once, twice, sold.
Stephen is not with us. We'll catch up with him later.
That's all.
All right.
I'm not sure the next one's either. Paul Powell, loaded weapon. Paul Powell, are you online? Going once, going twice, sold. So the next person.
No.
No, that's all right. All right. Not sure if this person's here either. James Sears from the heart of a combat leader. James Sears. James, Mr. Speaker, Sears. Go once, go twice, stop. So next. All right. Next up, we have Catherine Torres. What matters most?
Hi.
Hello.
I worked on this whole last year as a reaction to the questions of whether women should be allowed to serve and if female accomplishments are worth memorializing. It's called What Matters Most. I stand on the shoulders of women who keep performing, those who ask to wear the uniform the minute they walk over, who petitioned to fly the jet, who wanted to see the front lines and fight for the freedoms and equality that supposedly is protected. I can still hear the audible gasps in the audience when I stood on stage in a white satin dress at a teen baby pageant and announced I will be attending the U.S. Air Force Academy after graduation. I didn't win the pageant. I stand on the shoulders of women who endured name calling by small-minded men, who are accused of cheating their successes. The women who said, they told me I couldn't, so I wanted to prove them wrong. The women that came before me endured the brunt of it, so that my generation could soar less encumbered, not unencumbered, because small-minded men still make comments. She succeeded despite being female. Despite. They try to erase female accomplishments from history, mask it as equality. It's unfathomable that a female weapons system officer clocked 1,000 hours in an F-15E, a feat for any gender. It's a wonder a woman's emotions don't hinder her ability to lead a combat fighter wing, or a branch of the military, or any place that isn't home. Will the federal team maintain its high standards with a female pilot? What considerations does a woman need for a space mission? What about her children? No one ever asks about Nate's children. I stand on the shoulders of great women, and yet the stars remain just out of my grasp. Perhaps my daughter wouldn't have to stretch as far.
Served as an Army medic from 2004 to 2018, and this poem was written quite a while ago. I think 15 years ago, and I think it was like right after coming back from a long deployment in Iraq. I don't know how exactly, but how I got here, but here I am. Put me in the closet with the coats and the hats. Throw me on the floor, with the pumps and the flats. Or maybe in a cave with the ghosts and the bats. What am I to you when all you do is move? Does it look like I'm in motion to you? I hate to watch you fly by, given the time. I caught a glimpse once, but that was all I was able to catch. Inside a case in the heavens, when you just feel heavy. I've traded my items for a life item. I've become intangible and oddly abstract. But I'll move again, one day though. I'll be the most marvelous mover around. I will make movers and shakers pause to bear witness of this peculiar and glorious occasion. Yes, an unprecedented orchestration it will be. I will be better. I will be cured just like you. I'll be free. As soon as I get these shoes on time, assuming my hands and my feet will abide. As soon as I can stand strong, sturdy, and straight, push off suppressive and soul-crushing weight. The weight of my fears, all the years have assembled, while watching you fly by, you and the time.
Okay, before we move on, I want to make sure there's no one else online who showed up and wanted to read. So do we have anyone else online who's published in the anthology we're celebrating today, who showed up to read, sort of as a last thought of the day? All right. I think we have everybody covered. All right, thank you guys. All right, so here we are. So we have the anthology. This is a review copy. I think I told you guys that before. I do have some sell sheets, but I want you guys to know that there are a couple of corrections I need to make before we sell them. So we are in a little bit of a flux like that. So I'm going to pass the sell sheets around if anyone wants one. But please remember to take about 7 days before you order, okay? Because I do want to make a couple of corrections. And if anyone noticed anything that they needed corrected, so Shelley, I wasn't sure, so I wanted to talk to you before you leave. I saw something and I wasn't sure if it was what you wanted, so I wanted to double check before you leave. I happened to notice it. So anyway, anybody else, if you have any, if you've noticed anything, but anyway, altogether it's a beautiful product. I want to definitely think, before we forget, this is my copy here. Let me explain the cover part to you guys. So the cover, you could probably repeat, but I'm going to go ahead and show you anyway. So the cover is composed by G. Johansson, who's the publisher of this anthology. She came up with this. She had this idea for this painted sort of crackled paint background. And then also, I wanted to thank John Rugging, who actually painted this painting in the center. Okay, so that was one thing I wanted to add. And what else are we going to do? I wanted to give a couple of closing remarks. The first thing I want to do is thank an eternal volunteer, Megan Jenkins. She has, as I said before, given of her time, like really in a sacrificial way would be the best way to sum that up. And I want to thank all of you guys. I want to thank my family that's represented today by my husband Doug and my daughter Claire. So I wanted to thank them because they right? So there are lots of things. So I definitely want to thank our partners. We have I wanted to go to partnerships. The Academy of American Poets, as I said before, the Visual Arts Center and Jordan Roeder is in the back, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about the gallery. Jordan, do you want to do it now, actually? So we want to give a big thanks to her because their team put this all together for us, set our chairs up, did all those things behind the scenes to get us into the space. So Jordan?
We got to work on another sort of project earlier with a letterpress print broadside that was really fun to create here in our studios. But for anyone who's here in Richmond or coming back to Richmond, I just want to briefly say that this is a really wonderful creative space to create and make new work, and we welcome everyone and would love to see you here. We have classes all year round for kids as young as 5 and all the way up. And a big reason we were excited to support this project is we have our own veterans program here that serves about 500 veterans a year, working with the VA hospital. And it's just really, really important to us. So I'm happy to talk to anybody about some of the things that we do here, our amazing studios, our amazing teachers. And I left a few of our, shamelessly left a few of our catalogs up at the front in case you want to explore the types of things that you can do here. But thank you for being here and for having us.
And I do have a couple of copies of the broadside with us, so some of you guys probably got those when you were here in November, but if you didn't get one and you're a veteran standing here today, you can go ahead and grab one. There are 9 here for you guys if you want to get a copy. And this is the winning poem for Stephen London's poem that was highlighted on the broadside. All right, and what else do I want to say as far as thank you? I was getting around the room here. Wayne David, again, thank you for everything he did. Shirley, was really I'd say the moment there when we brainstormed, as you said, was probably the moment. And then the Poetry Society of Virginia. Do you want to stand up and say anything about anything else you might want to say about the region?
We're good, we're just having support, and it's wonderful.
Oh, okay, go ahead, because I do have another representative here who does a lot of work with younger poets, so she could probably talk a little bit about that.
Hi, my name is Gail Ewan. I'm the Central Region Vice President, so everywhere from like Louisa to Charlotte. It's very large, probably you live in it and you don't know. So I left a couple of flyers and some free pens from the Poetry Society of Virginia back there. I do work with young people, but also all poets are really important to us in PSB. One of the big things that we have is a big contest that happens in January, and having heard these poems, I know Jeff won last year a prize. Certainly consider entering. You're all fantastic poets. It's great to hear your work today.
Mention all those wonderful contests on the Poetry Society of Virginia website. All right, who else am I thinking? I didn't even want to think who's sitting in front of us here. Academy of American Poets. I do want to thank 2 people. Deidre Maybrick, who has worked with me to help me pull the fellowship together and remunerate partners. And there's surely someone I'm forgetting. Yes. You. Oh, you're hard work. Going to happen next, honestly. So we will see, stay tuned. So the way to stay tuned best is to go to www.veteranspoetryproject.com. I think you probably know that, but that's where we have the updates in the news, and you should be hearing from me sooner than that with a copy of the font. Once we get a correction or 2 made here, once we get that finished, all the veterans should be here because you're going to get that in the mail. So make sure, if you've changed your mailing address, you need to let us know. If you signed in, for example, have that mailing address there. And then, so we're going to get that out. We will, when I know what's going to happen next, I will let you know. So there are a couple of things in the works. And I, don't know exactly yet what that's going to be, as we shared before. So don't say I said anything yet, right? Phil, you're supposed to be like super quiet right now. Okay. All right. And I guess that's it. So please help yourself with food. Please talk to each other so you can mingle a little bit too. guys online, did you have anything to say? Jean is here. Jean, did you have something to say? Jean is the publisher. Yeah, what do you have to say?
I wrote another couple of poems for our nation's 250th. Can I send them to you?
Sure. Jean, do you have some closing remarks? And Jean is sort of in charge of when to tell us when the best time to order this anthology is to get that. So I should let Jean talk.
First of all, I want to tell you it was an honor to be here today. Normally, it takes us 3 months from the time we get an order or a manuscript to complete a project, and we did this one in 3 weeks because we had such a short timetable. I want to let you know that, second, some of your work moved me to tears. It's hard for an old-time publisher like me to be moved to tears, but it did. And thank you for taking the risk to put yourselves out there. It takes a lot. It really does. I work with a lot of people on veteran memoirs, and I know what it takes for you to talk about your time in service. So thank you.
Well, I guess we're about to wrap it up, and just know you're all held hostage here until you guys sign my copy, because I'm gonna be shameless. All of you who published, and even if you didn't publish, I'll take the back blank copy. You can sign on the back. So, I don't know if you had.
Okay. I'm not forgetting anything, I don't think. I'm sure I'll remember later. All right, you guys have a great evening, a safe trip home. Food, drinks, there are plenty, and there's more underneath if you have a preference for drinks not in ice. And then the veterans who are here who haven't received a broadside, this is a beautiful broadside, by the way. And Rachel Azanara did this for us. And she put Stephen London's poem on this for us. So it's lovely. It's it was one of the goals of the project that's supported by the county. Stephen, you haven't seen it yet, I'm afraid. You might have to listen. Stephen,
no, I haven't.
I've got to get your
Yes,
copies.
yeah.
Yes. I need to do that, yes, sir. That's a little bit of an undone thing.